So, three things you got to do. You got to just flood the oil market. You don't be pussyfooting around. Overnight, they're talking about Biden continuing Obama's initiative with the negotiating with Iran. So basically, cutting out sanctions on Iran, I presume, and saying to the Saudis, now don't you develop any more nuclear weapons. Don't be working on that. And they say, of course not. But what they'll be doing is, of course, they'll be doing it. So this is at the exactly wrong time. What are you thinking, Biden? You cut that out. The Iranians are fighting World War IV. You got to understand it. You do not pussyfoot around with them. Heavy sanctions on the Iranians. You go hand in hand to the Saudis, say we were wrong, and they were wrong. Barack Obama was wrong for negotiating with Iran. We were wrong. We will help you out with the Houthis. Open up the spigots. So you got to make it so the Russians suffer. You're not paying the Putin premium for oil and gas, particularly oil. Gas might be a bit of a problem for Europe. Next thing, hammer the oligarchs. What are you doing? Like saying, okay, 10 more oligarchs one day and then 10 more. You should have hammered them right away. Heavy sanctions on anyone involved with that regime. All of them. But you got to make them suffer. You got to cut exports to everyone. Like they're saying, was it Wendy's and McDonald's are saying, we've got deals with the Russian companies. We've got to keep our businesses open, and we don't want our workers to suffer. You've got to make them suffer. That's how Germany surrendered in World War I. They put a huge, particularly the English, put a huge. They just shut down stuff going into Germany, and they starved them out. It wasn't heavy starvation, but people were suffering. You have got to do that when you're dealing with a dictatorship. You have got to get rid of Putin. They've got to turn Putin over. The United States should be saying, don't kill him, but turn him over to us for Nuremberg-type trials. Now understand, anyone in Russia would understand that they'd have to kill him. Now, I'm not saying kill him, but hey, you got to survive if you try to get rid of him. Do what you got to, but get rid of him. So the third thing that you got to do is you have got to supply the Ukrainians with everything short of American and NATO boots on the ground. You have got to. Like I was saying, they were saying they don't want to give the Ukrainians anything that can attack ships. And of course, I was saying that's the main thing that they've got to give. Of course, overnight, Lviv was attacked by cruise missiles launched from the Black Sea. Oh yeah, from ships. But it wasn't a bunch of their equivalent of Navy SEALs launching cruise missiles. It was ships. The Ukrainians should be allowed to take those things out. Another thing, they should be given tanks in surplus. They should be given planes, I think. I think they'd be afraid maybe the Russians would accuse them of having NATO pilots, but definitely tanks. They have got to be able to move the Russians out of the parts of the Ukraine that they have attacked in the last month, but they've also got to be able to move the Russians out of Luhansk, the so-called People's Republic, the monstrous Republic of Luhansk, and the so-called People's Republic of Donbass, and they've got to be able to move the Russians out of the Crimea. You have got to make it so the Russians have got to suffer. These are the average people. They've got to suffer economically. They've got to see Putin lose. And the other thing is, with providing tanks and missiles and planes, is you've got to make them bleed. That's what made them lose World War I. They were suffering economically. they're bleeding people, like losing the lives of their kids, and they were losing territory. Enough said. You've got to hit them hard. Eh?
Okay. But is
You wanted to say more? Or?
well.
Okay, there's still more going.
There's
Okay.
probably more going.
Okay.
We could talk
Okay.
more.
What did you want to say?
I just I realize that the Russian people are going to have to suffer in order to.
It's chicken feed. Their stomachs are going to be rumbling. That's all.
Yeah. But not anything in comparison to what the Ukrainians are going
No,
to do.
no. I mean, the Ukrainians are losing civilians. You know, they're talking about a woman who made it into, I believe it's Hungary. She had 4 kids with her. I'm going, wow, that's pretty ambitious for a woman in the former Soviet Union. But only one was her child. The other 3 were kids that she picked up along the way,
you were saying that
orphans.
the Ukrainians have a negative population growth.
A negative population growth. So the other 3 were ones that she picked up along the way. I think it was 3.
Yeah.
You know, like I think a couple were, you know, like they were. She picked up. One was kind of like holding the hand, I guess, of their parents.
Okay.
Dead parents in the
How
street.
sad.
I know.
But anyway, I hear what you're saying, and I'm really frustrated because I can see that the powers that be in Canada are, especially the CBC media, they're trying to turn us against the Ukrainians, helping the Ukrainians. And it's really disturbing. You know, like I was listening to the
Shameful.
CBC, and it was just a little clip, you know, it was just a little, barely a soundbite even, you know? It was just a little story about how I guess, universities are waiving overdue tuition fees and stuff for
Ukrainian exchange.
well, they didn't say. They said international students because international students pay way more. Well, they pay way more to go to Canadian universities or universities in elsewhere because in Canada we have the public pays for universities to run. So there's the general public is paying for